Hi, welcome to this video. My name is Runepanel, you can call me Rune, and today we're talking about Hyperlight Breaker. In this review, I'm going to try to cover every aspect of the game as best as I can with whatever limited gameplay I actually have. And here comes a disclaimer. Keep in mind that this review covers the early access version of the game. Early access as of January 28th, okay? 2025. Right, that's today. That's when I'm recording this. And also a spoiler warning. Since the game doesn't have a lot of content right now, you will hear about majority of the game in this video. So, spoiler warning and disclaimer. Capiche? Nice. Me and my friend, we played for about 4 hours of Hyperlight Breaker. And let's start this video by saying that our first impressions, they are positive, but slightly underwhelming. So let's begin with answering the question, what is Hyperlight Breaker? Now some of you might have heard about this, some of you might not. But the devs, for example, they would describe this game as an open world roguelite. Alright, like a roguelike, not really a roguelite, and it's open world. Which it checks out. That's kind of what it is. But I would also call it an extraction game. Something like Escape from Tarkov, for example. Which makes this quite interesting actually, and a very interesting combination. So the game is played in third person. You have the choice of playing solo or with 2 other friends, forming a 3-man group at the max. And everyone has the option to unlock and switch between different characters too. Now, switching characters doesn't actually do much in the sense of changing gameplay. You get a little bit of a different passive and that's kind of it. Obviously, you look different from each other, and that is kind of it, really. But let's talk about the actual gameplay loop of the game and what you do and cannot do and what the gameplay is all about. The game starts off by placing you in a hub area. You've got the good old hub area with the option to invite your friends and run around and look at a few vendors. But initially there aren't really any vendors, so you have to unlock them. So you basically have to straight up jump into the action. You take this portal and you are in the open world scenario. Now every map is randomly generated. It's a randomly generated map with a seed. You will see the seed that I'm playing in top right. I don't know how to add a seed, but the seed is there. You will see it perhaps change in the video. I think I have 2 different worlds. So you have a randomly generated map and you have these, what I'm gonna call them, bounties. Bounties are basically bosses that you need to kill in order to get better rewards. Maybe you'll manage to kill him, maybe you won't. It's kind of like a main quest, but you can also fail it and restart. We'll talk more about that later. So combat wise, you start off with your left click, which is a melee weapon, and your right click, which will scope you into an aiming mode for your gun. The sword is obviously infinite, but the gun has ammo and you will get ammo as you play. Pretty often, really. Your melee is going to be your bread and butter, and your gun is kinda like for assisting damage or range damage. You can make gun builds too, but again, since you run out of ammo, you will have to come back to melee eventually. And the melee combat is quite in depth actually, and it's more than just mashing left click. It's intuitive, so to say. You got the option to do normal basic attacks, hold the attack button to do a charged heavy attack, jump slash attack, parry, like a Souls parry that will just, you take no damage. And you have this, let's call it an ultimate move per weapon. and you use it by pressing E or even holding E. Holding will kind of prolong it or change it or give you damage buff, right? And the E usually recharges pretty fast, so I wouldn't really call it an ultimate, but it's like a special move. It's usually stronger than your average left click combo too. So yeah, that's kind of it for the combat. And throughout the world, you will get armor, which you can equip for various stat changes. There's light, medium, and heavy armor, and obviously they have their own stats. Then you have relics, and the relics will give you passive effects. And you also have gear, which can be equipped in your number 1 slot and used as another combat utility. This is, for example, like a grenade, auto drones, or something cool like a huge block that you drop on enemies. It's like a utility that you can use and usually does some extra damage. Besides the utility aspect of the game that we just talked about, you can also get a vast assortment of different melee weapons and different guns that all function quite differently and play differently. So you can see in the video, I'll probably switch between a few gun and weapon types. And you can, customize and find your favorite playstyle with the right melee and gun combination. That's pretty fun, I like that. And all of these things that I just talked about, all the gear, weapons, utility, whatever, they can be found throughout the map by visiting points of interest. Now, most of them are pre-marked on your map. So if you open the map, you will see like a gun icon, a sword icon, or like a grenade icon, you'll see them on the map. Other things like shrines and secret caves, they are not marked on the map and will become marked once you get close to them or interact with them. It'll also tell you if you need a key or not to open them. I don't know what shrines actually do in single player, since I only played in co-op and multiplayer. But at the shrines, you can revive your dead friends with some of the currency you get from killing monsters. So if my mate dies, I can revive him. If I die, he can revive me. Or you can also buy another medkit from the shrine. And only one medkit can be purchased per shrine, and then the price goes up for the next shrine. I assume the shrines are used for medkits in single player, and I assume you can't revive in single player. But I'm not sure, again. I don't know about that part, so if someone wants to tell me about that in the comments, go ahead. But let's talk about these medkits, because they are great for healing, and a big chunk of your health will get restored once you use them. But you only get one initially, and sometimes you take a lot of damage during the run, and health is a problem. So being smart about the way you enter combat or even buying these medkits can eventually be run saving. And let's talk about this. How does a run exactly, how does it work, right? Well, as I already said, you can enter a map and you have these points of interest. You explore them and you get better equipment. But there is a catch. The map gets harder and harder the longer you stay in them. Something like Risk of Rain, if you've played that. Meaning the longer you stay, the harder things get, and stuff like assassins and bosses and hordes of enemies and meteor showers start coming after you. So you have to kind of set your own goal for yourself, how much you're going to explore and loot, or if you're going to try to go for a boss right away. Because you're on a time limit, and it gets harder and harder, and if you die, you will lose everything. Let's talk more about dying in a bit. Instead, let's talk more about the bosses. Currently, from what we could tell, there are only 3 unique bosses. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's only 3 unique bosses that keep showing up. Maybe a 4th one, we don't know. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. The bosses themselves are really neat though. I like them so far. I've only seen 2, but I like what I've seen. They all have their unique design and unique arena and seemingly their own lore. To fight the boss, you need to gather a specific amount of things called prisms. They are like keys, for example, for the boss arenas. The first boss needs 2, second one needs 4, third one needs 6. It's simple. Once you collect the prism, it stays there permanently in your inventory, so you don't have to collect them again during this cycle. More on cycles later. The bosses themselves though, they're fun and intense. sometimes mixed in with a bit of bullet hell, which makes the game really fun. I enjoy that. And the bosses are also very Souls inspired. I don't know if you know this, but I really like playing Souls games. I've played 1, 2, 3 Dark Souls, and I've played Elden Ring. I haven't played Demon Souls, but I played Bloodborne. You know, I played almost majority of the Souls games. And you can definitely see some inspiration taken from here. And it's nice. It's fun. It's good stuff. I like it. It's good stuff. So, what happens if you beat them? Or rather, what happens when you die? Either if you die to the boss or to something in the world. Well, let's start by talking about the surviving part. If you live to kill the boss, or if you're just satisfied with the run that you're having, and you want to go out with the goodies you've got on you, you go to one of these extraction portals, marked on your map and minimap. It's like a huge square. It's hard to miss it once you see it. It's pretty damn big. Once you get there, you can toggle it and you can ready up, and you'll get healed up a little bit, and you get tested if you're good enough to return to base or not. That's how we interpret it, at least. It's like a trial, mini trial, but still a trial. Usually it's just a Zerg fight with a bunch of small enemies, maybe one big guy and a few elites. And every time you kill them, they give you bonus points. So it's really, you get more shit from doing it. And then you're out and you get to keep everything when you go back to the hub. Now if you kill the boss though, the map will instantly get cranked up to max difficulty and shit hits the fan. And you kinda wanna leave as soon as possible if that is the case. But what happens if you die? Well, first of all, you have 4 lives. So you don't have to worry about dying on your first run, it's game over. But every time you do die, either to a boss or somewhere in the world, it doesn't matter, dying is dying. You lose a life. In co-op, everyone needs to die to get a proper wipe, so I guess it's technically easier in co-op. Otherwise, you can revive each other if you have the currency. You can revive, but you have to spend the money to revive. So it's easier, but at a cost. But once you die, you lose one of your lives, and every equipment you have loses 1 durability. Depending on the rarity of the equipment, it has more durability. So for example, a common has 1 durability, a rare 2, etc, etc. So once the durability hits 0, you lose it forever. You can later also once upgrade it at the shops and repair them, but you have to upgrade the shop themselves to do that too. So you can still keep your favorite weapons once you unlock those options in the shop. But once you've died 4 times, or finished the whole cycle, with other words, killed all the bosses, you will get a new randomly generated map. You get some unique resources that let you upgrade the vendors. That's how you kind of progress. You either die 4 times or you kill the bosses and you get the special resource. And you get to go ahead and do a new loop. So you get a new map, a new tile set kinda. It's the same tile set, it's the same square map that you go into, it just looks a bit different. And that's basically it, I think. Again, haven't really played the game on an extreme amount of time, just 4 hours. But it already kind of shows what it has to offer for you. But let's stop talking about gameplay and start talking about the whole game. Now, I absolutely love what the game is actually doing here. Everything from the art style to the animations to the gameplay, it's pretty damn neat and nice. Everything looks cool and it looks unique. Even the slime feels like way better than the average slime you see in other games. So it's nice and I don't dislike it one bit at all. I actually really like the game. The combat makes me feel like a badass at times, and other times I get my own ass handed to me and I go straight back to dishing it out once again. I really like what the game is offering you as a player so far. But there is a pretty big issue. Actually, there are a lot of them. These issues are making me kinda question if I should keep playing the game right now or wait for about 10 updates and then try it again later. I will not talk about all of the issues that I found in depth. I'll show them on screen, some of them, and I'll, list them right there if you're interested in seeing them. But my main concerns in general is the stiffness of the combat and the game. Once you start an animation, there are a few ways of canceling it, and your animation locked for basically a long time. Now, a long time in this game is about 1 to 2 seconds, because that's enough for you to get punished in such a fast-paced game like this. And it's not even your fault because the game is mechanically messed up. It's the same with the targeting. You will attack the same way you're facing, right? The character is facing a certain direction, you're attacking that too. And it's very hard, if not almost impossible, to change direction of attacking once you are attacking. So for example, you use this E ability that I talked about, the special per weapon, and you're looking one way while the camera is facing the other way, you're gonna perhaps eventually attack a direction without any enemies because your character is trying to run away from the enemy, right? We kind of got used to this jank and stiffness of the combat, but it is far from ideal and it makes the game kind of rigid when you play it. If you pay attention in the gameplay footage, I'm sure you've already seen it once or twice, if not every fight, because it basically did happen every fight until we got used to it, which we kind of got the last half an hour of playing. But in general, running around, it felt fine, but trying to climb ledges was scuffed most of the time. Hopping onto our skateboard or surfboard or whatever you want to call it, it made your controls stiff, as in you can't turn left or right. You will see that in the footage if I add it. I'm just going straight and can barely turn left or right for like the first 5 seconds of riding it. After that, it's fine, it's smooth sailing. You can like do insane drifts, but when you're initially jumping on it, it's so hard to control. And we both had some pretty bad lag during the game. I believe there's an issue with the rendering or the shading of the game, but it kept persisting and appearing when enemies spawned in too, so I don't really know what that is all about. It lagged on both my machine, which I can usually just play most of the games on the highest settings without any issues, 60 FPS or more. My friend was using GeForce Now. It's a streaming service and usually you can pick what computer you get. I think he gets a really good like 4080 server PC, which is way better than mine even. And he was getting the exact same issues as me and the same stutters. So I don't believe it's anything to do with our machines. It's more of the game itself. So yeah, the game got some issues, that's for sure. But the game also seems, feels, and is in early stages of its development. As I said, this is an early access review, and the developers feel free, I doubt you're watching this, but feel free to take some of the things I said into consideration. I'll list them on the screen, or maybe I'll put them in the description. It's just some scribbly notes, but you can have it there if you want. But here comes the thing. Would I recommend the game to you, my viewer, or anyone that's watching this? Would I recommend the game? I don't really know. I've talked about it so far. You have some gameplay in the background, do a bit of your own deduction. But at this stage, and at this price point of about $30, 30 euros, I don't think the game has that much to offer you right now. You're paying 30 bucks. It's quite steep, kinda. And you're not getting that much back. And you're getting quite a lot of jank in return too. And what it does offer you though, it is clunky, not unplayable, don't get me wrong. It's playable, but clunky. But you have to adapt to the clunk to enjoy it. And that's a chore people don't want to take on, so to say. It's okay for some, it's not okay for others. Nevertheless, what the game has right now is good. The game has an amazing base. The foundation is very promising. I'll give you that. It's a very promising foundation. I rarely play a game like this with a lot of jank and bugs and nasty stuff. And I think to myself, I really want this game to succeed. Usually I play a game like this and it's janky and it's buggy, and I think this game is dead in the water on release. This though, Hyperlight Breaker, has such a good foundation that I enjoyed it despite the clunk. I'm scared that I'm gonna go through the content way too fast, so I think I'm actually gonna refrain from playing the game just because I don't want to burn myself out on the little content there already is. But take that as your own advice and think about it before buying the game. Very little content, very good foundation. So if the devs manage to update this game and optimize it and make it feel better, I believe this is going to be a great game. A fantastic game even. But for now, maybe keep an eye out for some big updates and get it when it's fully cooked or medium rare, you know? So yeah, keep that in mind. But that's all from me, folks. So let's chat in the comments, shall we? What do you think of Hyperlight Drifter? Sorry, Breaker. So, what do you think about Hyperlight Breaker? Have you tried it, or are you going to wait a bit? Have you seen it before, or have you actually bought it? Is it buggy for you too? Is it laggy? No? Let's chat, let me know. As always, my name is Rune. It was a pleasure doing this video for you. If you enjoyed, consider leaving a like and subscribing. It always cheers me up. I mean, look at my numbers. I'm a tiny guy. You know, do me a favor, click that button. It'll cheer me up nice and good. But as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.